Welcome to Perfectville, your first place podcast for your Miami Dolphins, part of the Believe Network, presented by Fanduel. Check out the Fanduel Sportsbook today. Get all the latest bets, props, and any which way you want to bet on sports, you can do it at Fanduel. I am Sam Marcoux, and today, citizens of Perfectville, rejoice, celebrate, appreciate that the Miami Dolphins have done exactly what I, and exactly what everyone has been telling them that they needed to do for a number of months, if not years. And that is they have exorcised the demons. They have cleansed the soul. They've taken out the trash, ladies and gentlemen. The Miami Dolphins have had themselves one hell of a reset, refresh offseason. And it's something that has been wildly needed for quite some time. As I told you, if you're a longtime listener, longtime citizens of Perfectville, I told you that the Miami Dolphins needed an enema. They needed to stick the tube up the butthole and just flush out any and all crap that has been stuck and left to the insides of their system for many, many years. The poison, the toxins, all of that needs to get out of the Miami Dolphins system. And not only have the Miami Dolphins taken me up on that advice, they straight up called Roto-Rooter, because this is going to the back of the teeth. They have let go of everyone from front office staff to coaches to players and everybody in between. Not a lot of surprises as we recap what's been happening, but a lot of reminders of just how bad, just how poor the front office, the coaching staff, and the player roster was constructed, and how bad the culture had become, how sour the taste that was the Miami Dolphins franchise. And hopefully, under the guidance of Jon-Eric Sullivan, Jeff Hafley, and the rest of the people that have been brought in, we can turn that around. So, to recap, Chris Grier, longtime embattled general manager of the Miami Dolphins, let go during the season, walked away, whatever you want to say it. But the GM was replaced with Jon-Eric Sullivan from the Green Bay Packers organization. Jon-Eric came in and immediately said, enough is enough. The buck stops here. We are going to be changing what we do and how we do it for the Miami Dolphins. Gone are the days of building from the outside in. Gone are the days of splashy trades, trading away future draft assets, and trying to chase something that was unattainable. Now we're looking at a team, a squad, a coaching staff that's going to be built based around appropriate culture, built around retainment of those talents that they go to draft and develop, and have sustained success, fingers crossed, for the first time in a very long time down in South Florida. So Jon-Eric Sullivan comes in. He makes his first big move, which is to hire Jeff Hafley and build out that staff. Like him or not, haircut bad or not, Jeff Hafley is our coach. This guy does have head coaching experience at the college level, does have coaching experience at the pro level. He was the defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. On the report cards that just came out for each team where the players ranked everything, he was actually the highest rated thing on the Green Bay Packers report card. He comes to an organization which, quite frankly, the players ranked as the best organization in terms of locker room, facilities, things of that nature. So I like that. I like the fact that we're taking somebody who was a hot candidate, taking somebody who was going to be a head coach probably this year, whether it was in Miami or somebody else, and we go and get our guy. We get the guy that Jon-Eric Sullivan wanted. We get the guy who wants to be with Jon-Eric Sullivan, as Jeff Hafley mentioned during the Combine a couple of weeks back. We got a guy in terms of head coach and a general manager that are aligned. They have the same mindset. They have the same focus. Up until recently, they had the same haircut. I like that. You want alignment in business, whether it is football or anything else. So when I look at what the Miami Dolphins did in terms of reorganizing the front office, we got new scouts in there. We got new people that are helping Jon-Eric Sullivan pick the right pieces for the draft that's coming up. We got a new head coach, Jeff Hafley. He went out and got his defensive coordinator, also from the Green Bay Packers. He kept Bobby Sloak, who now becomes the offensive coordinator, a guy who has run and designed and developed the Shanahan offense himself, something that is a derivative of what Mike McDaniel's done. So we have some continuity with some of the offensive pieces that we are going to be building around. And let's talk about those offensive pieces. Let's talk about those defensive pieces, because as I talked about at the beginning of the show, at the very tippy top, 5 minutes or so ago, the Miami Dolphins are going through a transformational internal cleanse. And part of that is flushing out the bad juju that was the player roster. So Tyreek Hill, one of the best players in the NFL, at one point was voted by his peers as the very best player in the NFL. Gone. He gone. He's no longer here. And everything that comes with Tyreek Hill, both good and bad, is going to leave with him. We wish him well. I got no ill will towards Tyreek Hill, but it was time for him to move on, and the price tag that followed him as well. So the star wide receiver, the crown jewel of the Mike McDaniel era in terms of players to be got, is now out. Bradley Chubb, another example of the Miami Dolphins mortgaging the future to pay the rent today. They traded first-round draft picks to go get Bradley Chubb to put them over the hump a couple of years ago. Never quite panned out. Nothing bad to say about Bradley Chubb. He was a good player, borderline great for the Miami Dolphins. Seemed to be good in the locker room. But the price tag and what his expectations are now different or misaligned from what the Miami Dolphins are looking for going forward. And part of what the Miami Dolphins are looking for going forward is to change the culture in general, right? I mean, for far too long, the Miami Dolphins have been distracted by the shiny thing, the big piece. They're trading first-round draft picks for Tyreek Hill. They're going after Bradley Chubb as a midseason trade to get them into the playoffs and beyond. It hasn't worked. And what you do when you do those types of things is you water down your culture. You change your culture, and not for good. So one of the things that stood out to me when Jon-Eric Sullivan sat down with Travis Wingfield for his first official interview as the Miami Dolphins general manager, he talked about culture. He talked about what they're looking to do, what they're looking to build, what they're trying to change. And he talked about the fact that you can't have a good culture. You can't preach your culture. You can't hold the line when it comes to what your expectations are for behavior, performance, and everything else if you're constantly hiring mercenaries to join your army. You need to draft these folks. You need to develop them. You need to be the singular voice as they are coming up through the ranks so that they understand what it means to be a Miami Dolphins player in the eyes of Jon-Eric Sullivan and in the eyes of Jeff Hafley. We're also going to be looking at building from the inside out. Again, wildly different than what we saw with Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel, who sometimes preached that, but they never practiced that. Right? We went out and got Tyreek Hill. We went out and got, defensive edges, and we went out and traded for Jalen Ramsey and all these mercenaries that brought their own brand of culture, their own opinions, their own veteran presence, if you will, to the Miami Dolphins. And quite frankly, dropped a turd in the punch bowl, which meant nothing tasted good after that. So the proof is starting to be in the pudding here, where you're seeing Jon-Eric Sullivan, you're seeing Jeff Hafley, you're seeing the Miami Dolphins front office and coaching staff not just preach these, but practice it. They're putting it into play, and you're seeing the Miami Dolphins cleanse themselves. You're seeing the enema tube start to shoot water up the old poop chute and make some significant changes. Jon-Eric Sullivan talked about we're going to get bigger at the wide receiver position. I love that. I mean, great. Malik Washington, awesome. Jalen Waddle, wonderful. But Taj Washington, Tyreek Hill, all these other guys, do we need 6 5'9" guys running around on the field? No, we don't. We need some bigger guys. We need to be more physical. We need guys who are not just tough, but mentally tough as well. So this Miami Dolphins roster is going to look wildly different the next time they step on the field in 2026. And it's not just Tyreek Hill being gone. It's not just Bradley Chubb being gone. It's not these high-priced, talented veterans that still have something to contribute to the NFL on some level. It's also the guys that didn't need to be here anymore, that shouldn't have been here in the first place, but have somehow hung around or made their way onto the roster. Those guys are gone too. And yes, I'm talking about Liam Eichenberg. Yes, I'm talking about Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. These were mistakes. In some cases, chronic mistakes that the last front office, the last coaching staff made. They put together a horrendous roster and then just crossed their fingers that somehow it would work out. But talent does not trump culture. It's the other way around. And that's true of any business, of any team, of any group, anywhere. The culture will always win out. So when I take a look at what Jon-Eric Sullivan is doing, when I look at what Jeff Hafley is doing from the head coach position, they are aligned. They have the same mindset. They came from the same background. They're looking to achieve the same results. They had the same haircut up until recently. These guys are aligned. They're like the Steiner brothers from wrestling, right? This is Rick and Scott Steiner, just wearing the same outfit, getting into the ring at the same time, stepping left, stepping right. Love it. I love seeing that. And I love that they're not just saying these things, but they're actually doing these things. I mean, Chris Greer famously said, you guys are more worried about the offensive line than we are. Well, it turns out he was right. We were more worried. But in him being right in that assessment means he was wrong in terms of how he was assessing his roster. He should have been more worried about the offensive line. He should have been looking for complementary pieces through the draft and getting people on that line and then developing them and then keeping them. I never understood why we didn't keep the players that we developed. I mean, Chris Greer wasn't completely absent of talent when drafting guys. He was just completely absent in keeping them. I mean, my God, we found a right guard. We had a right guard that was fantastic, and we let him go to the Panthers. We had a linebacker who was a special teams ace and just a turnover monster, and we let him go to the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, we had some pieces. We just never kept them, and I don't understand why. That's a weird culture that the Miami Dolphins decided and elected to maintain. Christian Wilkins, another one. He was one of ours. He was great here. Yes, he flamed out with the Raiders. Yes, there's some weird stuff going on, but that wasn't happening with the Miami Dolphins. He was a good fit. We were better when he was here, yet we let him walk. Why? Because quite frankly, we couldn't afford those pieces because we went and chased the shiny things. We went and paid Tyreek Hill. We went and got Bradley Chubb. We went and put a franchise breaker of a contract together for Tua Tagovailoa, which, oh, by the way, he's next. He's next to be gone from the Miami Dolphins. He will not be on this team. All the evidence suggests that. It's not a surprise. None of this is a surprise. But it is refreshing because all of the old stuff, the toxins, the poison, the shit that has been stuck to the insides of the walls of this organism that we call the Miami Dolphins is being flushed out. Jeff Hafley, Jon-Eric Sullivan, and the rest of the plumbers are going to town. So the Miami Dolphins are going to look wildly different next year. The Miami Dolphins are going to have almost a completely new roster. They're going to have almost a completely new coaching staff with just a couple of holdovers from the old regime. And we're going to have a completely new front office. Hell, we even have a new owner. Lin Bin just bought 1% of the Miami Dolphins franchise. So congrats to Lin Bin for paying $125 million for 1% of the Miami Dolphins. I guess congrats to Steve Ross, too. So it's been refreshing. When I take a look at what the Miami Dolphins have done, and by the way, they are not done. There's going to be more cuts. There's going to be more players that you know of, names that will no longer be on the Miami Dolphins for a bunch of reasons. Mainly salary cap relief, right? Jason Sanders, he's probably going to be gone. He's going to have to rework a deal if he wants to come back. I mean, he's getting paid $4 million next year. He didn't play in 2025. The Miami Dolphins need cap space. He could be gone. Alec Ingold, we all love Alec Ingold. Who doesn't love a good fullback? But $4 million next year? I don't think so. There's going to be some tough decisions. There's going to be players that probably deserve to be here that won't be here anymore or at a reduced value because of the decisions that were made prior to the people that are now making the decisions for the Miami Dolphins. So I would not, under any circumstances, go out and buy a jersey of any specific player for the Miami Dolphins right now, unless those players are Aaron Brewer, our starting center, Patrick Paul, our starting left tackle, and maybe Jordan Brooks, Devon Achane. Those would be the four that if you're looking to invest any sort of money into any sort of apparel that has anybody's name and number on it, those would be the four that I would tell you. The four horsemen right there. I wouldn't even invest in Jalen Waddle right now. And I love me some Jalen Waddle. But there's a lot of smoke out there that Jalen Waddle may be headed elsewhere. And based on what we're hearing from Jon-Eric Sullivan, based on what we know from Jeff Hafley, based on what they are looking for from the wide receiver position and the profile in terms of the physical presence that they need him to be, Jalen Waddle may not be long in Miami Dolphins land. Maybe he will. I hope he will. There's room for a super fast, super talented 5'9" wide receiver. Is he going to be wide receiver 1 long term? I don't know. But the contract is doable. It's manageable. And you can't deny the talent. It's just a matter of putting him in a position to win, putting him in the right position with the right quarterback and the right offensive scheme where we can exploit those talents well beyond what we've already seen. But I wouldn't put him on the Mount Rushmore of the Miami Dolphins right now. That belongs to Jordan Brooks. That belongs to Devon Achane. That belongs to Patrick Paul. That belongs to Aaron Brewer. And what do you notice about those? 50% of those, half of those core players, offensive linemen. 25% or a quarter, middle linebacker. You're looking at players that have been identified by the front office and the coaching staff from the inside out, up the middle, stopping the run and the ability to run the ball, the ability to block for the quarterback, whoever that may be. That's a culture change. That's a difference maker. The Miami Dolphins are looking to have a completely different identity in 2026 than what they had in 2025, 2024, and years before that. And it's refreshing. So the enema isn't done. The cleansing has not completed. But the Miami Dolphins are a much healthier organization today than they were a month ago. And they will be a much healthier organization over the next year than they were last year. I firmly believe that. Now, it's not going to be as flashy. It's not going to be as entertaining. But it is going to be fun because this all leads to winning. And at the end of the day, winning is fun. I don't care if you win 30-0 or 3-0. If you are the one that doesn't have nothing, then it's fun. And I, quite frankly, am looking forward to just having more fun as a fan, as somebody who actually covers this team, as somebody who follows this team, both personally and professionally. It would be nice to get back to having fun when talking about the Miami Dolphins, when watching the Miami Dolphins, when being around the Miami Dolphins. So, you know what else is fun? The people that sponsor the show, the ads, the friendlies that are out there providing goods and services for you to take advantage of. So you go listen to the ads, buy whatever it is they're selling. I firmly endorse whatever it is. And we'll be back to talk about the quarterback position specifically right after these words. And we're back here in the town of Perfectville, San Marco on the Believe Network, presented by Fanduel. If you haven't yet, then what are you doing? Log on to the Fanduel Sportsbook. Take a look at all the odds, all the props, all the bets, all the different ways that you can continue to have fun beyond just watching the sport. Be a part of the game. Log on to the Fanduel Sportsbook and take a look at everything from the NBA to the World Baseball Classic to the Major League Baseball season that's getting ready to start up again to NHL. And then, just around the corner, ladies and gentlemen, March Madness for college basketball. And then right after that, we got ourselves some football action yet again. So check it out, FanDuel Sportsbook, our title sponsor. We appreciate everything that they do for us here in the town of Perfectville and the Believe Network as a whole. And I appreciate what the Miami Dolphins have been doing this offseason. Like we talked about in the first half of the show, the Miami Dolphins needed an enema. They went full Roto-Rooter. They got to the back of the teeth. They are just pressure washing the crap from the insides of their body there. And one of the ways that's going to happen, and one of the ways that's revealing itself, is the fact that Tua Tagovailoa, for all intents and purposes, is no longer a Miami Dolphin. Yes, he's on the books. Yes, he will probably be on the books financially for the next 2 years. But where there's smoke, there's fire. And at this point, I can see the flames happening because the Miami Dolphins did not wish Tua Tagovailoa happy birthday on social media the other day. And while that seems petty and small and weird, it is the first time that they have not done that since he has been on the roster. You combine that with the fact that Jon-Eric, Sullivan, and Jeff Hafley have both said that everything is on the table when it comes to Tua Tagovailoa and his lack of employment with the Miami Dolphins in the future. They would be okay with a trade, any trade, quite frankly. They would be okay with having to cut him and probably designate him as a post-June 1st cut, which would spread that $99 million guarantee, that salary cap hit across not only this season, but next, setting a record. However you slice it, It's still the same pizza, and that pizza is Tua Tagovailoa is no longer going to be the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. They will have a new starting quarterback in 2026 and beyond. The question becomes, who is going to be that starting quarterback? Is it Quinn Ewers? Everybody is saying a lot of nice things about Quinn Ewers under this new regime. Jeff Hafley, Bobby Slowick, Jon-Eric Sullivan. They mentioned something that I hadn't thought about was the fact that he looked healthier in his rookie season than he did when he was at Texas. His arm was better. His arm strength was more. He's a guy that they are looking at as somebody who could contribute at the quarterback position in 2026 and beyond. Now, does that mean he's going to be the starter, that they're going to crown him? Not right away and not long term. I think part of this culture change and part of what we're looking for from Jon-Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley is they are going to continue to turn over rocks. They're going to continue to forage. They're going to continue to search for that long-term answer at quarterback, that franchise guy, that true franchise quarterback that can lead the Miami Dolphins back to the promised land. And oh, by the way, once they find that, if they find that, they're going to continue to search for the guy after him. That's part of the culture. That's part of the Green Bay Packers way of doing business, and that's what they're bringing to the Miami Dolphins. They have already come out and said they will draft a quarterback in this year's draft. Not very often do you see a front office be that open about what their strategy is going to be regarding draft picks. We all know that they're going to be looking, but nobody ever actually really comes out and says, this is what we're targeting. But that's what Jon-Eric Sullivan has said. He didn't say when. Could be first round, could be seventh round. Who knows? Could be smoke and mirrors. Maybe he's lying. It doesn't seem like that, though. It seems like they're going to be hyper-focused on figuring out the right quarterback for the Miami Dolphins in 2026, the right quarterback for the Miami Dolphins in 2027, and beyond. Now, is that Quinn Ewers? He's definitely part of the mix. He's in the formula. People are talking about Malik Willis, obviously backup extraordinaire for Green Bay just last year, did quite well backing up Jordan Love. He's going to be a free agent. People are talking upwards of $30 million a year annually for Malik Willis. If that's the case, the Miami Dolphins are probably out. But if he comes in underneath that, the Miami Dolphins maybe work some magic in terms of getting some additional cap room. Maybe they do go get Malik Willis for a couple of years. Maybe they put him into the mix along with Quinn Ewers. And now you got a guy who's proven in this system, in the Green Bay Packers mentality way of being successful, albeit a small sample size, along with Quinn Ewers, year 2 quarterback, proven winner out of Texas. I doubt it's going to be somebody like Kyler Murray, who the Arizona Cardinals have released. I don't think it's going to be a Jimmy Garoppolo, who, in my opinion, is probably going to be the guy who replaces Kyler Murray in Arizona. But it would not surprise me to see a veteran, a journeyman of some sort that is proven to be able to hang, proven to be able to command a huddle, maybe make their way to Miami for the opportunity to maybe start, even if it's just short term, 1 year, 2 year, whatever the case may be. Under the guise, if you're going to be here, you're going to help develop Quinn Ewers and anybody else that we're going to go draft, and then you're out. I could see that being a play for the Miami Dolphins. Malik Willis makes a lot of sense. Can he do it in Miami? He does not going to have the talent that he had in Green Bay. I don't know. But like we talked about in the first half of the show, everything Jon-Eric Sullivan has done, everything that Jeff Hafley has said and done, so far, so good. So if we're going to trust them or we're going to trust their process, then we're going to have to trust if they're going to go out and spend some money on Malik Willis. It certainly seems like they're going to draft somebody. It's probably not going to be in the first round, probably not going to be in the second round. My guess is it will be a mid-round pick, probably day 2, if not day 3. Somebody like Grant Nussmeier out of LSU makes a lot of sense to me. Carson Beck. It'd be fun to see Carson Beck just stay in Miami. He's a proven winner. Everywhere that guy's gone, things turn up gold. Maybe you just need a little bit of that Carson Beck aura, a little bit of that magic to stay in South Florida. But I do think they're going to draft a quarterback. I do think they're going to go out and get a quarterback in free agency. Who that is, I don't know. And I do think Quinn Ewers is going to get himself an opportunity to compete for the starting quarterback role in 2026. But it's not going to end there. Even if they find somebody in the draft this year, even if they find a free agent like a Malik Willis to come in and be the quarterback in 2026, they're going to keep looking. I mean, the prize of all prizes is Arch Manning, right? I mean, that's what everyone's looking for in 2027. The irony would be is if he comes in after Quinn Ewers was drafted 2 years ago and has started a bunch of games and Arch takes his job again. That would be probably pretty devastating for Quinn. However, pretty cool for the Miami Dolphins if Arch is what we think he's going to be. But the point is, the Miami Dolphins are putting a hyper focus on the quarterback position and not one individual, which is what Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer did. They designed an entire offense. They went out and got players that would support that offense that was designed around one player, Tua Tagovailoa. And why Mike McDaniel had some success, the guy is a genius in his creativity when it comes to putting together offensive plays. That's not sustainable, especially when Tua Tagovailoa leaves. Now what? Because we have seen every other quarterback that has come in, whether Tua was benched or Tua was hurt or whatever the case may be, fail epically in the Mike McDaniel offense. The closest one to success was actually Quinn Ewers, believe it or not. And I think that's a testament to who he is as a person. He's a guy that could probably figure out how to get by in just about any sort of offense that's out there, which is why he's going to be a holdover, which is why he's going to have an opportunity. Because if he can grasp the Bobby Slowick offense, if he can go out there, command the huddle, and be the guy that can get the ball to whoever it is he's supposed to get the ball to, then hats off. But you have to have a system. You have to have a way of vetting out whether people can come in here and succeed or not, based on who your offensive play caller is, based on who your offensive design is, based on the culture of the team. There's that word again. And it's forever changing. It's forever evolving, which is what I really like about the Jon-Eric Sullivan, Jeff Hafley way of looking at this is we're going to keep looking. We're going to keep finding players. We're going to keep turning over rocks until we get the right fit. And then once we get the right fit, we're going to do it again. So I don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins in 2026. I just know it's not going to be Tua Tagovailoa. And while I'm not expecting a lot of success on the field in 2026 for all the reasons that everyone has talked about on their own individual podcasts and blogs and radio shows, I am expecting a better long-term outcome. I am expecting a better culture in 2026. Better fits, people who can come in and actually contribute the appropriate way versus what we've seen from some mercenaries that were hired previously. So I'm trying to come into this season with the right mindset. This is going to be a development year. This is going to be a restructuring. This is going to be a refresh. This is going to be a rebuild. Let's just say it. So with that mindset, under those goggles that I'm wearing, it could be a lot of fun. Could be a lot of fun to see Quinn Ewers line up behind center. Could be a lot of fun to see Malik Willis come in here and prove that what we saw in Green Bay is the true Malik Willis and not what we saw in Tennessee. It could be fun to just see a rookie come in and get some run and see what happens. Little bad news bear action, if you will. And as we start to establish that culture, as we pour a new foundation, we can build on that in 2027 and beyond. So it'll be fun to be on the ground floor. It'll be fun to be a part of this. It'll be fun to watch this. It'll be fun to cover it. I am looking forward to it. We got the draft coming up. We got free agency before that. We got mini camps. We got training camp. We got all of the things before next season starts and kicks off for the Miami Dolphins. Schedule release. I'm really hoping that the Miami Dolphins are playing the Niners here in California and not down in Mexico. That's fingers crossed. That's what I'm looking for. So with that, as I said, I feel lighter. I feel maybe like the toxins in my own body have been exercised out because the Miami Dolphins took my advice. The Miami Dolphins went and got themselves an enema, and they have not stopped pressure washing and power cleaning ever since. It's going to be a wild season. It's going to be completely different. We're going to see flat tops. We're going to see paper bags in the audience, in the stands, with a flat top on top. We're going to see the Hafley bags, and I'm here for it. It's going to be fun. We're going to lose a lot of games, but it's going to be fun. We're going to have some people that we go, who the hell is that guy? But it's going to be fun. And at the end of the day, after everything that's happened over the last 4 years with Mike McDaniel and the last 10 with Chris Greer as the GM, I'm looking forward to having some fun. And I'm looking forward to doing more podcasts. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys more often, early, often, consistent as much as I possibly can. I have been on the road for the whole month of February, recording my business podcast called Strong Conversations, talking to people within the construction and building materials arena. A little bit different podcast than what you have here. That's why you haven't seen me. That's why you haven't heard from me. I've been busy, been traveling the United States, talking to professional people about professional things. But I'm back being an unprofessional podcast host for the Miami Dolphins. All right, everybody. That's it. That's all I got to say as my mic falls down. So on behalf of myself, the entire Believe Network, presented by Fanduel, the only thing left to say is goodbye from Perfectville. Later.